Hi guys and welcome back. In this video we're going to take a look at JavaScript objects. JavaScript objects are a really important part of JavaScript, so much so that nearly everything in JavaScript is classed as an object. Objects are collections of name-value pairs, so let's take a look at how we use them. So let's create video number 12, and this is called objects. And then let's open this up. So drag that into brackets. Okay, so let's change this to JavaScript objects and start with an empty script tag. There we go. So when we want to create an object, we start in a similar kind of way to a variable, which we looked at earlier on. So we use the var keyword, and then we want to give the object a name. So I'm going to use a phone as a good example for our object. So let's give it the name of phone. And one way of creating an object is by using the new keyword. So new object. And when we create a new object, we need to use the brackets afterwards. And this layout should look pretty familiar from the array section, where we created a new array and then we added certain values or properties to that array. So now we've got our phone object, we can start to add some different properties to it, such as the phone's manufacturer, the model and the color. So to add properties to our phone object, we type in the name of the object. And then to add the property to the phone object, we can use the square brackets. And then inside the quotations, we can add the name of the property. So manufacturer, go with the first property. So let's set our example to Apple. And then a semicolon at the end. And we can carry on in exactly the same way for more properties. So we can add the model, and that can be set to the iPhone, the phone color. So I'm going to set that to silver. Okay, so we set a new phone object, and this is going to have the properties of manufacturer set to Apple, the model set to iPhone, and the phone's color to be set to silver. So these are the name value pairs. So this is a name and this is the value assigned with the equals operator. And objects are ideal for anything which has a number of properties, such as a person object can have properties such as a name, an age, address and contact number. So they're really useful for keeping all that information contained under one keyword. Okay, so now we've got our new phone object created and we've added 3 different properties with all their values. We can now do a console log. So we can log to the console the phone object. So let's save that and take a look. And head to the developer tools. So there we go. So we can see our object is being created in the logs. And if we open that up, we can see all the name value pairs. So we've got the color, the manufacturer, and the model. So that's the contents of the full object. If we wanted to access just one of these properties, this works in a similar kind of way to an array. Instead of logging the phone object, we use the phone object and then the square brackets. And then inside the quotations, we just put the name of the property. So now we should get the model, which is the iPhone. So head over and refresh. So there we go. So there's the iPhone value. Okay, so in our example that we just looked at, we've accessed and added properties to our object using the square brackets. And usually a more popular and a simpler way to add properties to an object is to use the dot notation. And it looks a little bit more simpler. So using the example that we've created above, let's do this again with the phone object. So let's set this to a new object. And let's just comment this section out. So now when we want to add properties, we can start with the phone object, but this time, instead of the square brackets, we can use the dot. So dot manufacturer equal to Apple. The phone dot model is equal to iPhone. And then lastly, the phone dot color. So we'll set that to silver. So this works exactly the same as the bracket notation that we used above, but I think this just looks a little bit simpler and it's just a little bit easier to type out. So just to check that's working, we'll do a console log, and then we'll display in the logs the phone object. So save, and then refresh. So there's our object once more, with the manufacturer, the model, and the color properties. So we get exactly the same results, but I think it just looks a little bit cleaner. So if you remember from when we created an array, we also done the literal version where we didn't need to use the new array keyword. We can do exactly the same when creating objects. So rather than creating the object like we just done there, which is one way, we can use object literal. So it's a little bit simpler to create an object this way. So we begin with the var keyword, and then again give it the name of the object. And then this time, instead of setting the new object, we set the phone object to be equal to all the name value pairs, which you put in between the curly braces. So we can set inside the braces the properties, so manufacturer, and then use the colon. So Apple, the model, so these want to be separated with a comma, the model, again the iPhone, the color of silver. Okay, so one of the great things about using objects is because they're just collections of name value pairs, we can also nest an object inside another object. So for example, if our phone had many different features, we could also create a features object. Instead of adding a value, we can use the curly braces, and then inside the braces we can add more name value pairs. So for example, if our phone had features such as Bluetooth, so we'll set that to a Boolean value of true, and Wi-Fi, so that should be a comma again, and then Wi-Fi, this can also be true. GPS, we'll set that to be false, and you can nest as many of these properties inside as you want. So now if we wanted to access any of these properties which are nested, it's pretty simple to do. So we're going to do a console log. So begin with our object name. So the object name is phone, and then use the dot to access the properties. And you can see the brackets has already given us a list of the various properties. So we've got the color, features, manufacturer, and model. So if we wanted to go deeper, we can select the features and then use the dot again. And then you can see inside the features, we've got the three properties of Bluetooth, GPS, and Wi-Fi. So let's save that and check that out. So we should get the value of Bluetooth, which is true. So refresh, and there we go. So there's our true value. And then it changes to GPS. And then we should get the value of false. There we go. Okay, so now we've got our phone object all set up. I'm just going to create an example using a function, which we've looked at in this section. So create a function. So we'll just display the features of your phone in a function. So let's just do an alert to the browser. And then inside the alert, we can display the phone manufacturer by grabbing the manufacturer property of the object. So let's start with a string. So manufacturer, and then a space. and then we can use the plus to add onto the end. So then let's select our phone object and use the dot notation. So phone.manufacturer, and then to display this we need to call the your phone function. So paste that in and then save that, and then go over to the browser and refresh. So there we go. So there's our string of manufacturer, and then we've pulled in the object manufacturer, which is Apple. So there we go. So that's how we create an object in JavaScript. And that's the end of this section. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next section.